And then it went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Third date, Costa Rica. Look at this. You only live once. What's the worst that could happen? It's at the early stages of the coronavirus.
At the hotel, they were like, we're shutting down, you have to leave.
Why the flight's canceled. Guess we're stuck here.
Are we supposed to feel bad for these people? Start the show!
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm your co-host, Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood, and apparently at some point we did the show together, Tom, over and over and over again. But then we decided we needed to take a separation, and it wasn't that we didn't love the audience anymore.
One of us went
less.
to Costa Rica. Actually, I did not go to Costa Rica.
The important thing is that we're back together now, and hopefully we'll never separate again, except for all of the times that we definitely separate.
We came together for you.
That's right. So
you.
That's why your curfew is 9:30 sharp, and that's that. Hey, Bryce, what did we just see at the beginning?
That was a trailer for Netflix's upcoming documentary, Longest Third Date. That's streaming on April 18th. It's about two lovebirds who take a third date to Costa Rica in March of 2020. Oops. They end up stuck in Costa Rica for, I want to say, almost 3 months.
Is this a fictional or faux documentary or reality-ish?
It's real. It's a real story. I think it's, they go back and they talk to the couple. It wasn't like live, but
and yeah.
So there'll be a lot of like
social media posts.
iPhone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of that. But that's coming to Netflix on April 18th. Looks fun.
Yeah, I want to know why they didn't leave when the hotel told them to go.
Well, I guess the flights and then the international of it all.
I think they wanted to get stuck
Discomfort with driving on the Pan American Highway.
These are my favorite Jimmy Buffett songs.
Driving through the cartel lands.
Oh, Tom, please save us.
Wasting away again in Costa Ricaville. Let's get to the primary target. Owen Gleiberman over at Variety wrote a piece this past week called "Do We Really Need or Even Want a Remake of Vertigo? What's Next? Citizen Kane 2025?" Apparently, Robert Downey Jr. is in talks to produce and star in a remake of Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, which starred Jimmy Stewart, Cary Grant. No, I suddenly can't remember which one it is.
Jimmy Buffett.
They can... Jimmy
Wasted
Grant
away, I can't see down from high heights.
If they can't do it to Vertigo, well, basically what he writes is, if they can do it to, it's Cary Grant. Thank you, Paolo. If they can do it to Vertigo, they can do it to anything. And that's a travesty, wrote Gleiberman. He does acknowledge the many remakes of classic movies, including the remake of Vertigo in 1976, which was retitled Obsession at the time. But he thinks this time is different. So, Brian, if someone were to want Citizen Kane 2025, or even Robert Downey Jr. starring as Jimmy Cary Grant in Vertigo, are they a monster?
Let's play a game called Brian and Tom present.
Now they're
both
telling me
sides.
it was Jimmy Stewart. I don't trust the
No,
chat room
I
anymore.
mean, look, you were right the moment you said Jimmy Cary Grant. I mean, Jimmy Grant is his name. But let's play a game called figure out.
It was Jimmy Stewart.
Figure out what our real beliefs are as we steel man both sides.
Okay.
I have three double-digit daughters. In age. Sorry.
You have a single digit of double-digit daughters.
No, I have three.
You have a single digit of double-digit daughters.
Oh, got it. Okay. All right. Yeah. All
this
right.
is your metaphor.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. No, okay. I'm with you. They're all over They're all 10 or older.
Correct. And at various times, one of my favorite things about
None of them are 100.
About having three girls is at various times kind of being able to curate their experience. And sometimes people, they are in the mood to see old stuff. Sometimes they're not. There was a really special time, and we talked about it on the show, when Josie, at the age of 12, right before the pandemic, was just really into like, Dad, what are good movies? And we went through, the 70s and 80s catalog of Spielberg and so on. There's something truly magical about it when you get to see that spark, that genesis. And there's a reason every hippie says of Jimi Hendrix's rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner, "You had to be there, man." And they're 100% right. There was something truly electric and special about that can never be recaptured. Like I assume somebody at Woodstock '99 played the Star-Spangled Banner, and I suppose and the mere fact that I have no idea who suggests that it was probably not that spark-filled moment, and that maybe that remake wasn't worth it. What say you, Tom?
Yeah. So the first time something's done, it always hits bigger. But the other side of that coin is that those of us who grew up in a world where Jimi Hendrix had always done the Star-Spangled Banner did not therefore find electric guitar versions of the Star-Spangled Banner to be that impressive, because it's been done, right? So I think that's another point worth thinking about when you're arguing on the Owen Gleiberman side, which I know many of you out there are saying, yes, a good movie is a good movie, and you don't need to make it again. And some of you even argue that it degrades the original movie if you have the second movie, because if you watch it, now that's in your head, and it's a lesser experience that you're always going to think of, and it's going to pollute your thoughts somehow.
And in fact, there are a number of people in our audience right now who are hearing this who were very, very vocal in our cordkillers@gmail.com emails saying that Cowboy Bebop should not be made into a live-action remake. And
absolutely.
That we didn't need it.
Now, Swamp Rat 1965 pointing out The Wizard of Oz was a remake. That's an interesting point. I don't think Gleiberman is saying bad movies shouldn't be remade. Gleiberman is saying classic movies, great movies.
Genre-defining transformational movies.
Yes. So it's not that no movies should be remade, but, Vertigo, considered one of the greatest films of all time. Wasn't always. It took a while for the film critics to come around. Gleiberman acknowledges that, but considered to be one of the greatest. On the other hand, Brian, when I read this headline and I saw what's next, Citizen Kane 2025, I thought, that'd be kind of fun. Like, I don't want to see them do a shot-for-shot remake of Citizen Kane because it's of its time. But if somebody wanted to do a modern remake and make fun of, I don't know, instead of William Randolph Hearst, maybe Rupert Murdoch.
Or
is that called Succession? Are we just seeing Citizen Kane remade with Succession?
Or Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or whatever.
Or Citizen Kane 2045 in space.
So now we get to the other side of things. I am certain that one of the most magical moments in all of human history was the first time that the Odyssey was spoken aloud around a campfire. And I am certain if we could revive the ghosts of those people, they would say that it never got better than that, and you should have been there, man. But I, for one, am glad that we went there many, 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 many times afterwards, constantly iterating, sometimes with great success, sometimes with not great success. This is the nature of humanity. And let me give this example, and I think I've given it before. Peter Lynch's, what's his name? Alan Smithy's Dune is objectively not a great rendition of an excellent, excellent story. However, it is the first version of Dune I ever saw, and as a result, I loved it deeply, and it caused me to descend into reading the book, playing the video game, and watching all of the remakes since then. And I'm very thankful for some which were good and some which were not, but I'm very glad it was remade. I wouldn't want to take away the opportunity for anybody. Like, there is not much chance my 10-year-old or my 19-year-old will watch Citizen Kane right now. Maybe my 15-year-old, but that would be if I promised her something in exchange. But a 2025 version or a 2045 version, I could at least get her in the door for. So I don't know. The jerk part of me wants to say this is a eye-catching headline and a dumb, lazy take and a bad take. However, I understand where it comes from, and I agree with the sentiment. However, humanity writ large is not on the side of this. We love certain stories, and we love seeing them updated again and again and again. And yes, we'll never know which ones are going to knock it out of the park, but we have to keep showing up to the plate.
Yeah, to me, Gleiberman's take is a common take. I didn't really love it either. I thought I would give him credit for doing a good job undermining his own argument in order to try to prove his point. Like, say, you could say this, you could point out that, you could point out that Vertigo was remade as Obsession, but here's why I think it's different. So I think he did a good job of making his argument. I think what Gleiberman and others who agree with him, others of you out there who agree with him, are worried about is that the movie won't be good because often remakes aren't. Especially if you're doing what Brian has described of, hey, I was there, man, the original was better. And there is that situation where if you haven't seen the original, maybe the second one is fine, is great. And you are unaware of the original. I know there were movies in the 80s that came out that my parents were like, oh, well, that's just a remake of this, under a different name of the same story. You even have, what is it, Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail, which are essentially the same movies put out, shortly after, which are both remakes of a classic 50s movie that was, I believe, starred Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart, or one of the two. Not joking at that. It definitely was one of the two. But again, it's like, if the story is good, if it's executed well, that's what matters. So you're worried it's not going to be good or that you won't like it, and that's fair. But that doesn't mean it's wrong to try, because there are situations where a remake will happen and it will be, even though the first one was great, it will be better. And that's okay. You should let people try and miss. I don't think we should say, don't try to remake Vertigo, you'll fail. Say, try and remake Vertigo if you want, but it better be good. Like you have a high bar to clear. Yeah,
I may be getting the titles matched wrong, but is it 10 Things I Hate About You is really Taming of the Shrew and
there's lots of examples like that.
Cruel Intentions is actually
people take Shakespeare
Othello or something. And again, people will say, no, that's a reinterpretation. But on the flip side, when people make this argument, oftentimes they'll point out that the remake of Psycho, the quote shot for shot remake with Vince Vaughn did nothing to add to it, which at the time made a lot of sense. But I believe I've read a few articles that have indicated that the whole reason that movie exists is because it was basically a vaccine. Like, somebody's going to try to redo Psycho. Please let us redo it, and we'll do it shot for shot. And whatever, it'll make your money back because it's Psycho, but at least now nobody else can ruin Psycho. And so there's kind of, I don't know, weird mechanics that are happening in the background on that.
Do you think that there's space for audiences to say, please don't do this, that this idea, hypothetical or not, I'm telling you ahead of time, doesn't resound with me?
Well, that is definitely what's happening in this article, and in which case we say, I just tipped my hand. It's clear what side I'm on. In which case we say, cool, don't watch it. But it's definitely not actually. But
that's useful information, like for creators, for the industry. I mean, if they know,
that's a good point.
If they have an idea that audiences don't like something.
Yeah, I wouldn't say don't anyone say that you don't want someone to make a movie, because you're right. That is good feedback. On the other hand, there's a difference between Owen Gleiberman saying it in Variety and an audience member saying it on Twitter. Those carry different weight. So I think there's a responsibility that Gleiberman had to make his point better, which I think he met.
You know what?
To be fair. But I don't know, man. I think the bigger your platform, the bigger your responsibility to make that case. And I still think that creators, if they really want to make it, should be allowed to make it. You can be allowed to say, I don't want you to make it, but there are some people who are like, and I'll be very angry if you try. And that's like, well, okay, but you don't have to watch it.
Let me counter my own counter example with a counter example. We live
the famous counter
in a wonderful world of the independent creator, which I think of two different axes. I think of a horizon, infinite land as far as you can see. Anybody can have as much land as they want, but not all creators know what to do with it, whether it's on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. And so it's important to kind of build your own town in this infinite real estate. But on the flip side, another axis is picture a ladder going up and down. Hollywood really is, give or take, a zero-sum game. If one movie is going to remake Vertigo, that means nobody else gets that $20 million budget to remake Vertigo, on top of the marketing on top of that and all that stuff. So if you're in Hollywood land, and Variety is very much a publication of and from Hollywood, then I could understand the argument for, if you do this, you're reducing something precious to Hollywood and you're taking away opportunities from other things. And that's hard for us to hear, being of the internet in the independent land, but I do understand it in the vertical of Hollywood.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a really good point. I still think I would say you're just saying the bar is really high. If you're going to take that $200 million away from something else, it better be worth it, because there's no guarantee you give that money to something else and they won't make something original and bad, right? So to me, it all comes down to, did you make a good movie? Did you improve on it? Did you give me something extra? That bar is higher to meet when you're remaking a classic like Vertigo. Maybe it's impossible. That's what Gleiberman is arguing, but I leave some leeway to let people try.
Is pretty good.
Yeah, thanks. That's the title. Okay. But you know what I mean? Like, you can't, like you shouldn't stop people from trying. I guess you can discourage them, like Bryce is saying, but if they want to try, I feel like people should try. Maybe you're right. Maybe that is just the independent.
I don't know. I think that we may have a bias. Everybody, cordkillers@gmail.com. I think I talked myself out. I went into this convinced that everybody should do everything, but truly, Hollywood is a zero-sum game. It's a ladder. If you're going up, somebody else has to go down.
But I still go back to, there's no guarantee that if you don't make this thing, that the other thing you make will be any good.
That's true. That's true. Cordkillers@gmail.com. Look, as we all know, long ago, Tom and I walked for 75 days, 37 minutes, and 2 seconds, and we said, no farther. And we looked around the desert and we said, here. And Tom grabbed a golden staff and he stuck it into the ground. And I said, why'd you do that? He said, I don't know, it just seemed cool. And I was like, well, what do we do now? And Tom said, we build a town. It will be called Cordkillers Town, and everybody will work for Cordkillers bucks that they'll spend at the company store. And I said, that's not a bad idea, Tom. And the libertarian in me really appreciates where you're coming from, but maybe we could take US dollars. And he says, that's impossible. You remember this, Tom, right? And I said,
oh, absolutely. Every word. Yeah.
But it is possible. If people go to patreon.com/Cordkillers, they can keep us loud, live, and independent. They don't actually have to live in the desert with us or work and spend their money at a company store. Instead, they'll give us real American US dollars. They'll get an exclusive RSS feed. They'll get early access to our After Talk, or exclusive access to our After Talk segment, early access, their own feed to all of our Spoilerin time episodes. They'll be keeping us loud, live, and independent, and they don't even have to live here in the desert. And Tom was already putting up a pitch tent, and he's like, go on. And I said, you know what? We don't even have to actually live in the desert to do this. And Tom scoffed, and then he spat on the ground. And I was like, what? And he said, sorry, I've had a cold lately. You remember that, right, Tom?
Yeah, it was before COVID. So.
Right. And so I was like, why don't we go back home and just do a show called Cordkillers? And that's how Mommy and Daddy made you guys. Cordkillers is our website.
How I Met Your Co-host.
Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Please give us money.
Yeah. Please. And if you do, we'll tell you how to watch. Janko Rutgers has an article up on The Verge called "The Future of TV is Up in the Air," meaning double entendre. Well done, Janko. I don't know if he wrote that headline or somebody else did, but it's a good title because it's talking about over-the-air broadcasting and the fact that the future of over-the-air broadcasting is a little indeterminate. ATSC 3.0 is the new broadcast TV standard that offers 4K HDR, Dolby Atmos, and interactive features over the air. So you don't just have the one-way signal. ATSC 3.0 is currently available in select markets across the US and Canada. It's been 5 years since ATSC 3.0 launched, and it's still not in all the major markets. It's in about 50 to 75% of households in the US, or at least it will be by the end of this year. Not all TVs support it. Sony is the only one putting it into every TV it makes now. The others are only putting it in its higher-end TVs, and budget TV makers like Vizio aren't supporting it at all yet. Stations are also required to keep their old ATSC 1.0 broadcast going for at least 5 years after adding ATSC 3.0. And because of that, they're not adding 4K to the 3.0 signal all the time because they need to save the bandwidth, save the air, save the money. However, EW Scripps, which owns a lot of local broadcasting television stations, has bought Nuvio, and in January 2022 is going to offer an ATSC 3.0 compatible DVR called the Tableau Dual HDMI. Yes, Nuvio makes Tableau, and Scripps now owns Tableau. The Tableau Dual HDMI lets you watch and record over-the-air broadcasts as well as stream from popular apps like Netflix and Hulu. Basically, they're trying to make ATSC 3.0 as easy to use as any other app. The Tableau Dual HDMI costs you $250. You can get it right now, Amazon and Best Buy. And because it is an ATSC 3.0 compatible DVR, it doesn't matter what TV you've got. It'll send the signal that way. ATSC 3.0 could be a game changer for broadcast TV. It's got the higher quality video and audio. You don't need a cable or satellite subscription to get it. It's free over the air. 18% of TV viewers told market researchers last year they owned an antenna. The CTA expects 8.5 million antennas to be sold this year. So it's not nothing. However, it remains to be seen how quickly ATSC 3.0 will be adopted by consumers, because free television that is supported by ads can come over the internet too. It's called FAST channels, free ad-supported television. We've been talking about it a lot, and its adoption is skyrocketing. Even Scripps is streaming its channels as FAST channels and plans to launch a FAST network before bringing it to over the air later this year. They're using FAST to prove the network's worth before moving it onto broadcast. Scripps Network Chief Distribution Officer Jeffrey Wolf said in this Verge article, "Right now, the best use of our spectrum is building over-the-air broadcast networks. Is that the path of the future? Time will tell." What do we think time is going to tell him, Brian?
I think that is a very, very, very carefully constructed sentence that is meant to please the board, the shareholders, and also quietly admit to everyone that broadcast is on the way out. By the way, I do know that FAST is FAST, ad-supported streams. ATSC, do you know what the body is that determines that? Is that a government U.S. body or international?
I think it's a standards group. So, yeah, I think the FCC is part of it, but also the television broadcasters. The ones that...
I often feel like my job is to be dumb. It's a good job to have. But basically this
and my job is to anticipate what question you will ask me and not know the answer to it and do fast research to answer it. So I will try to get you a better answer.
But basically, as I understand it, the idea
it's a nonprofit organization developing voluntary standards.
Okay. But specifically, this is for, let's say you have a cabin in the woods, you have no internet, you don't have a satellite dish, you don't want to pay for satellite anything or whatever. You are...
I think ATSC 3 needs, at least for the interactive stuff, is going to need an internet connection to send your...
That's what I was wondering. Like, if you have internet, any level of internet, Well, I guess if you have highly asymmetrical, let's say you have dial-up, you have your V90 modem, and you're getting 54K or whatever, you can at least request, send me a picture of the behind the scenes of the director.
Your
doing
clicks,
this.
clicks could go, and then the download is going to be high bandwidth because it's broadcast, right?
I think that if we were having this discussion 5 years ago, there would be many, many very good examples I could come up with for why you would want or need this to be supported more. As we were talking about before the show, it's a bit of a chicken and an egg thing where it's like, well, if everybody's supporting it, then people will use it, but people don't want to support it until everybody wants it. But I mean, we're living in kind of a nearly, and I don't want to offend anybody here, we live very close to a post-scarcity universe of internet bandwidth. Now that there are satellite options that are quite good, there's LTE options and on and on and on, 5G, wired, all of that stuff. The argument for making this universal gets very, very difficult in my mind, and I can't. We've talked before about the difference between convenience versus fidelity. We're a show mainly about the convenience of watching what you want, when you want, on whatever device you please. We understand the value of fidelity for people who want their Dolby Atmos home setups with the 4K and the, or what's the thing that makes the rich colors? HDR. And, but I don't know. This seems like, it seems like it's never going to go away. But I think it'll remain fringe forever.
Now, I'm not surprised to see people championing ATSC 3.0 in our chat room, claiming that OpenBio is saying that ATSC 1.0, that ATSC 3.0's advantage is that you can get it while moving. I know you can get ATSC 1.0 while moving, just like you can get radio while moving. OpenBio is saying that's not right. That you need to be stationary. I've used TV while moving.
Well, picture van life, right? Like you're in a different place every single night.
Yeah, but ATSC 1.0 and ATSC 3.0 are the same. I think it means while you're actually in motion, and maybe it's more stable. I'll buy that. Is that 3.0 might be more stable while moving than 1.0 frequencies. Lawnmakes was saying that RV owners are excited because they don't have cable. So they're looking forward to these over-the-air options. But RV owners have mobile data,
right?
So they don't need to have cable.
They could have
fast services.
They could have data caps,
would
though.
Be the
like my in-laws spent 2 or 3 years in a RV park, and they never got to watch Netflix during that time because they had no decent internet. Unsafe DB level cleared it up for me. OFDM modulation scheme is better on ATSC 3.0, so you get less multipath distortion. That makes sense to me. 1.0, it can be used while moving, but you're going to run into more signal irritation, and 3.0 seems to get rid of it. So okay, that's cool. You can watch the TV while driving, and bandwidth. Over the air bandwidth is not so good that you aren't going to be disrupted sometimes while driving, while streaming. It's gotten better, certainly gotten a lot better, but I mean, okay. I watched a video while on airplane Wi-Fi. Right. I mean, at this point, we're championing. No, people in motion deserve 4K, not good enough standard def or HD.
But what about this? We gave them the towers. We gave them the towers. Give us the damn thing for over the air. I'll buy an antenna. Give us the, Well, I mean, why?
What do you mean we gave them the towers?
We the taxpayers, paid for the infrastructure that the towers have.
We paid for the towers. We gave them the spectrum to broadcast on.
In any case,
there we go.
This is a
which is also true of mobile internet, by the way.
It just seems like a public benefit being taken away when it's
and that's actually quite a good argument.
There are plenty of low-income folks who would love to know what is on the news.
Correct, and you're 100% right, Bryce. I've been making mainly a practical branding marketing framework, but there is an ethical framework to consider as well. Cordkillers@gmail.com. Please pipe in. Let us know.
Yeah.
I don't know that one. I mean, there's, but at one,
I got things to say on that.
Okay, go
what
for
Bryce
it. Yeah,
just
yeah,
said,
no, take
which
it away.
is, yes, over the air is free and ad supported with no ongoing charge. That is the difference between the internet. You have to pay for the internet. I think for the vast majority of people, even low income people, they have an internet connection, probably on their phone,
Probably a smartphone
at base. But the data is high there. That isn't 100%. So there is an ethical question of, okay, what about that admittedly small percentage of people who aren't going to afford an internet connection, and the fact that the spectrum is a public good, and so should be used for that. I think that's fair. That's really not what this is about. That's an argument for keeping ATSC 1.0, which is like, give them the news, give them public broadcasts in good enough quality. And yes, maybe ATSC 3.0 down the road when they need higher quality video. But it's ATSC 3.0's argument is that we can do a lot of the things you can do on the internet over the air. And my question is like, okay, yeah, maybe we should do that for the sake of the small percentage of people who can't afford the internet. That's possible. Is it enough to justify the expense? And if it's not, why else would you do it? The RV life is one that I've seen so far, but that's one I think the need for it is going to diminish the better satellite coverage gets,
right?
Not just mobile, but also satellite. You're going to have Starlink acting as backhaul for T-Mobile this year. And suddenly you're going to be able to get decent data anywhere you can see the satellite. So you can't always see the satellite. Sometimes you're in the woods, sometimes you're blocked by buildings, but the number of cases that they're just going to get smaller and smaller to the point where, again, you're going to have the question, does it justify the expense for the small amount of usage that you get out of it?
I think you've talked me back, Tom, because it's sort of like convenience, fidelity, choose a lane, pick one. It's like you are definitely entitled to one or the other. Let's say I know that's a loaded word, entitlement, but let's say you're entitled to know what's going on. Great, convenience, check that box. Are you entitled to convenient high fidelity? And should everybody play ball in order to bring you the quadraphonic hi-fi stereo vinyl experience, because that's the very best way to experience Dark Side of the Moon?
We'll save data. Don't even send color data, just black and white. You get the free. It's again in black and white. Hey, who needs high definition? 480p is plenty enough.
You know what?
360 is plenty enough.
Learn it. Actually, that's God. You're pulling me both ways, guys.
Are we progressing forward, or I don't know?
I think what's going on is that the emotional argument is strong to say, hey, but you have to pay for internet no matter what. There's no free over the air internet. This is a free resource that is ad supported. Granted, it's not entirely free, but you don't have to be making an income to access it. And there's something to be said for that. On the other hand, the logical argument is that yes, but if no one takes advantage of that free resource, or a small enough people that it is almost indistinguishable from no one, is it worth doing? And my fear emotionally is that that's where we're headed. And that's why we're seeing TV makers drag their feet on implementing it. It's why some major markets haven't upgraded to ATSC 3.0, is they look at this and they're like, I just don't see a large number of people using this, and the ad money is going to dry up. And if you have a small enough amount of people using it, you don't generate the ad money that you need to run the broadcaster, and the broadcaster goes out of business, then you have no free over the air broadcast anyway. You need a critical mass of people using it.
We're kind of back to that zero-sum game that we were discussing in the primary target, where it's like, for every engineer you put on this project, that's not an engineer working on high-end, high-bandwidth interactive experience for the majority of users. That's cordkillers@gmail.com.
Actually, what I would like to see to satisfy Bryce, or Bryce's points anyway, I would never claim to satisfy all of Bryce, but
thank you, Tom. Please don't end. I would never believe you could.
But to satisfy that point is, what if you took that spectrum that you have given to broadcast television at some point, and I'm not saying we do this tomorrow, but at some point when it becomes clear, like, yep, it's just not serving anyone anymore. What if you take that and require a free public service internet broadcast using that spectrum.
Yeah, and if you're going to have the government create a monopoly on spectrum allotment, then it does make sense for that same government to take the lowest, let's say 10% used bandwidth, and as a rule, repurpose it to something that will actually benefit more people.
There's a lot of thought needs to be given into how you structure that, because a lot of what the government has done to require like easy access to bandwidth has been gamed by companies. So I'm not sure I even love this idea, because it's probably going to get gamed, but it would be the same thing as what you do with Spectrum right now, which is a television station pays a small amount for access to the spectrum. And then in return, they promise to, do some public good with that spectrum, which is why you have public service announcements and things like that. Maybe there's a situation like that. Yeah, exactly. And maybe a better use is to take that model and put it on the internet somehow.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
I like real estate. It's all about location. Under surveillance.
Apple has often released its movies into theaters, but usually for small runs, independent theaters, enough to get qualified for awards. They freaking won an Oscar, not this year, but the year before. Bloomberg sources, though, say that Apple is working with studios to spend $1 billion on major distribution. Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Ridley Scott's Napoleon, the spy thriller Argylle, all might get this treatment, though it's worth pointing out Scorsese has a distribution deal with Paramount, because that's where that movie started. So this might not be part of the $1 billion, but it's a plan that is being done more often by these streamers. Amazon also plans to spend around $1 billion on wide releases in theaters.
Yeah, we talked a bit about this around the release of Glass Onion, something that, depending on how you squint, was everything for like to be eligible for the prestige of Oscar contendancy or whatever, or be an Oscar contender makes sense. But then you have Glass Onion, which is mainly a people pleaser that was released for a brief window around Thanksgiving. There's pandemic echoes and all of that stuff. And I remember us talking about the possibility that it's like, oh man, Hollywood people, they really like going down the red carpet and having all the people show up for the movie and having everybody clap and stuff. And I was wondering if there would be creep for that. Now, we haven't seen that on Netflix yet, but this totally tracks. Like, if Netflix is hesitant about offering that experience to creators, then that means somebody's going to fill that void, and it makes sense that it would be Apple.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, too, that this isn't just for awards contention. This is for making money. So this isn't about the 90-day window or anything. This is like, hey, we think we could make enough money on theaters that it's worth spending money on distribution deals. And it will, rising tide lift all boats, cause people to want to watch the movie when it does come out on streaming, because that happens, too. Yeah.
Well, and like we've talked about, man, oh man, I'm just so hungry for, I want good movies every single week again. Those were good days.
Apple, however, will no longer let you watch Friday Night Baseball unless you pay for an Apple TV Plus subscription. Last season, it aired the games for free with ads, whether you had the subscription or not. This year, Apple's going to make you pay, and there are still ads. Apple shows 2 live games every Friday and will add the ability to swap audio out with your local radio commentators this year, so you're getting a little bit of an extra feature. But yeah, it sounds like the free streaming outside of Apple TV Plus was just to get people used to the idea.
Yeah, that's for people who are following us on Spoilerin Time. We've been following the NBC long-term documentary Miami Vice, in which they explained the business model of the first hit is free, and then after that you have to pay, and so that makes sense.
Yeah, I suddenly have a image of Crockett and Tubbs pulling up at the Apple Circle.
They're pulling up, and it's like, there they go again. Steve Jobs is rolling over his grave. Oh, come on, Tubbs.
Here's some good news. Arrested Development was supposed to leave Netflix on March 15th, but the departure has been averted. Netflix reached a new deal with Disney's 20th Television to keep the show on Netflix. And Hulu is getting rid of its first 3 seasons. Hulu has had the first 3 seasons of Arrested Development, not the ones done for Netflix. So Hulu is going to lose those first 3 seasons, and Netflix will be the exclusive home of Arrested Development.
Yeah.
This
Speaking of watching documentaries.
This almost happened with Lilyhammer. In fact, I think it was Variety when they reported on this said, "Oh, this happened with Lilyhammer too," and then at the last second they saved it. So,
you think it's a case of a little bit of brinksmanship? I guess we see that all the time between local affiliates and cable companies.
yeah, especially for something as high profile as Arrested Development, one of the first Netflix shows, probably before they've got a sense of getting these exclusivity deals down.
Well, and Netflix already experienced the sting of losing. Was it The Office or Friends or was Seinfeld? I forget which one. But there's one of them.
I think all of those.
Yeah.
Over the time.
So
they kept Seinfeld. They lost Friends. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. But it makes sense. Hold on to something.
They
Netflix.
got Seinfeld after they lost Friends. Yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
and the other thing is Seinfeld is a Sony property. They don't really have a streaming service to compete with Netflix. Arrested Development was a Fox property when Fox, had a portion of Hulu, but really wasn't interested in creating a Fox streaming service, which they still aren't. But then it got sold to Disney. And under Bob Chapek, they were going to claw it back. Under Bob Iger, they're willing to cash a check from Netflix to let it stay there and even give up the Hulu exclusivity, which is interesting.
Probably worth
All
it.
right, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. Brian, what you been watching?
Hey, man, when I say the names Austin and Meredith Bragg, does that ring any bells for you? You know anything about them?
No.
AKA
Why
the
should I?
Bragg brothers?
Bragg Brothers.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
A long time ago, I want to say 5 years plus years, I ran across a video with one very funny human named Andrew Heaton, and he was appearing on screen, and I kept on watching him, and I wrote him an unironic fan letter, and then I watched him, and there was another guy who just slayed me with his deadpan. Turns out that guy is... I'm pretty sure Austin. That's the thing about branding yourself as the brothers anything. It's easy to get mixed up. But Austin and Andrew have been working together for a long time. I met Meredith, and they make very funny videos together. But more importantly, Austin and Meredith, during the pandemic, created a wonderful movie that is so good. I watched it twice in 24 hours. It's called Pinball, The Man Who Saved the Game. It's based on the true story of the guy who made pinball legal in Manhattan. He had to perform pinball moves for the city council who had made pinball illegal, along with, I think, like 17 other cities across the United States, because it was perceived as a gambling game, and there was one simple question: is this a game of skill or is it a game of chance? The movie itself is all about the one moment that he won the hearts and minds of everyone. He made a called shot that is like, well, this is a game of skill, hit that, and he hit the thing, and it made New York folded, and then everywhere else made it legal. They unlocked pinball for everyone, and the way they tell the story is an utter delight. They have the actual guy who is both in a documentary style, and then he shows up like on set in the movie parts, looking at his younger self, and there's wonderful byplay. It's light, it's funny. I think that's all I'm going to say about it. If you trust me, just dive in. It's great. I loved it. It's, I believe PG, they almost, I will spoil one moment. There's a great moment where somebody is about to say, "Get out of here, you mother," and then they freeze, and then it cuts to the documentary moment, and he says, "Hey, what rating are you going for?" And they're like, "I don't know, PG-13. He's like, "So do you swear?" And they're like, "Well, you get one." He's like, "Let's save it." And it cuts back to the movie. He goes, "Get out of here, you mother-loving weirdo." It's just great.
Where do you watch it?
Everywhere. You can either rent it for $3-4 or buy it for $12 or $14. That's what I did.
Well, I would like to talk about two situations, one of which I alluded to earlier today. I was watching a live stream video concert in our hotel when we were on vacation last week, finished the entire, I think it was 2.5 hours, something like that, concert, looked down and realized I had been on VPN the whole time. And I realized we have gotten to a world where not only can I go to Hawaii and get Wi-Fi in a hotel and watch a streaming video without interruption, but I can accidentally leave VPN on while doing it, and it all streams just fine.
There's on top of that, there was a number of institutions that wouldn't allow me to use, both video streaming institutions and financial institutions that you would have to disable VPN. And increasingly, more and more of them seem to be chill with VPN. They seem to understand that some people want to secure their privacy.
This one was on Weverse, and they apparently were not worried. I mean, for one thing, they sold the rights to watch the concert around the world, so it didn't really matter where you were, whether you're using VPN or not. But yeah, when I realized the VPN had still been on, I was like, oh, wow, that should not have worked. Also, I was on hotel Wi-Fi on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. None of that used to work. First time I ever went to Hawaii, I had to stop at an internet cafe to check my Yahoo baseball lineup. So we've come quite a long way. The second part of this story is that was night one of the concert. Night two, I was on an airplane flying back from Hawaii to Los Angeles. And so on the Delta Wi-Fi, I thought, well, let's just see how bad it is. I watched the whole second night concert streaming video on my phone on the plane Wi-Fi.
Is it a case where this distributor is not wasn't high profile enough for them to put it on the blacklist?
No, there are a few million people watching. They have upgraded the Wi-Fi on planes where you're allowed to stream video now.
Yeah, dude. It's I just want to time travel back 12 years when everybody was worried about net neutrality. And I remember saying pretty soon, it wasn't as fast as I would have liked, but pretty soon all of this will seem so irrelevant. And I feel like we're entering that age.
Yeah. They don't allow you to make video calls. That's the new thing is like, do not make a video call. Do not do your Zoom call, but that's not about bandwidth anymore.
Right.
That's about disturbing the other passenger.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'm fine with. So anyway, anybody else who watched the Le Seraphim concert knows what concert I'm talking about. But even if you don't, the fact that I was able to watch it over Wi-Fi, hotel Wi-Fi with VPN, and then on an airplane, I feel like is worth noting. That's a check mark noting moment in the development of the internet.
Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, over the weekend, I had a chance to watch the Best Picture and Best Director nominee Tar over the weekend. It's streaming now on Peacock. This is the story of Lydia Tarr, a fictional but world-renowned orchestra conductor. Ahead of a big live recording and a book launch, Tarr has to grapple with some of the dramatic acts and some of the behind-the-scenes decisions that end up leading to a story about controversy, outcry, what is actually important in the world. I think it's good. It's an interesting, dramatic watch. There's a lot of really good suspense. Cate Blanchett is fantastic as Tarr, and I think it does an interesting. I think it's a very just interesting thing to look at from all angles, right?
I've heard it's very, very good, and what's interesting is I heard it that it's very good from somebody who I suspect that you would disagree with on virtually all on most spectrums. Like the fact that you said that it's interesting from all sides.
Sure, because there's an element, and partly why it's talked about is they're like, if you squint at it, there's like a cancel culture facet to it, but that is a very small part of a larger controversy that brings into question, like, okay, but like that video is edited, but that's not there are other things going on.
Right. The bigger question is art so important that a tyrant should run amok on set and that kind of stuff?
Or more.
Okay.
Check it out. It's called Tar. That's T-A with an apostrophe, or not an apostrophe, but an accent R. It's streaming on Peacock now, but it's just a film out there in the world. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, please email it to us, cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
And more importantly, when you send that email, you're going to need a computer. So do us a favor. Head on over to doghousesystems.com/rogue. Spell it right, R-O-G-U-E. And when you buy a computer because you need a computer, what are you going to not have a computer?
Get a computer.
We're all Borg now.
How are you going to email us?
How are you going to email us?
Come on.
You're just going to shout from a rooftop? No, you're going to go to Doghouse Systems. You're going to get best-in-class service and excellent computers. You're going to keep us in business.
I want to see shows, Columbo. Columbo.
So when you get
Columbo.
that PC in your house, You've watched Columbo.
Columbo!
You've emailed us to tell us that you've watched Columbo. The next thing you're going to do is fire up youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show. Do you know why, Brian?
Well, I mean,
Columbo?
I'm somebody who likes my
Not
news
Columbo.
analog, weekly, full of gossip and written.
Okay.
Would I be a good candidate for Daily Tech News Show?
Yes, you
Okay.
would. But that's not why I'm telling you to go to the YouTube channel. I could just tell you to go to dailytechnewsshow.com for Daily Tech News Show. Why, Brian, am I telling you to go to youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show?
Do you guys have like a new setup that you're doing?
Oh, we've got a new show. It's called Tom's Top 5. It's back.
Oh!
5 things to know about ChatGPT is up. Produced by Roger Chang, hosted by myself, Tom Merritt. If you liked my top 5 at CNET or Tech Republic or Revision 3, you're going to love the new live, loud, and independent top 5 available at youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show. If you haven't subscribed, go do it right now.
Oh, heck yes.
So good. So good.
Let's move on to the front lines.
Let's.
Frontlines.
US FCC Chair Jessica Rosenworcel proposed requiring cable and satellite TV providers to have to advertise the total cost of services in their ads. That would include hidden fees like the broadcast television fee or the sports fee. Usually cable TV advertisers advertise a base price, $39.99 a month. Man, that's way cheaper than YouTube TV, right? The fees are then added on in the bill. Comcast's adds about $409 in fees a year to its advertised price. The proposed change was given to the other commissioners. No word on when it might get voted on.
Man, you know what? I wonder if it's fees but not taxes. Do you think you're required
I'm sorry, I said that wrong. $40 a month. No, these are fees. Now, there may be some taxes in there. I'm not going to say there aren't, but the majority of them are Comcast has to pay ESPN.
Right.
So
right.
instead of including that in their base price, they add on a sports fee or for the regional sports network or the money they pay to your local Fox station for carriage. They will put that in the broadcast television fee so that they don't have to list that in the base price.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is like as a teenager, and I never looked up the answer because I'm lazy, but I always wondered why gas wasn't advertised as 89 cents a gallon plus $3 of taxes, or cigarettes were advertised for 89 cents a pack for plus $4 of taxes. Or whatever.
It would be applying something to cable television that you don't apply anywhere else. When you go into a grocery store, they don't tell you the local city sales tax. At least not in the United States, we don't have value-added tax, so it's. But
they also don't hit
different.
you with broccoli fees on the way out of the grocery store.
That's true. And again, this is requiring them to put it in the advertisement. They have to do it on the bill. They already do it on the bill. If you actually look at your bill, you'll see all these fees. So they haven't been hiding them from you at all 100% of the time just before you sign up. So anyway, we'll see if that goes anywhere.
Bloomberg saw month-old internal Netflix figures indicating around 1 million accounts have signed up for Netflix $6.99 a month ad-supported tier. That number does not account for multiple viewers on one account, so it's not the count of viewers, but only of subscriptions. Most ad-supported subscribers are new to Netflix, not downgrading from their more expensive plans, which makes sense. I think that's why they were doing that.
Yeah. The early numbers were that they were short, so I think this is Netflix trying to get out there that they're catching back up. They're not going to have to do make goods all the time. Fubo TV has dropped the TV from its name. It's now just called Fubo. Co-founder and CEO David Gandler said in a statement, "Alongside our continued growth, our consumers have affectionately shortened our name to Fubo, and we feel that name represents the premium media brand we are today."
To be honest, I think that's a smart call because at the very beginning, if you don't know what a Fubo is, you add the word TV so everyone knows what it is. And then when all of a sudden everybody, like when virtually nobody knows the difference between Fubo and Fubo TV, then why are you adding the word TV? It's not like we call ourselves Cordkillers live streaming platform plus podcast.
Yeah. Follow us at Cordkillers podcast on
YouTube. Yeah. So we have shortened our name. What do they affectionately call it Fubo TV, or do they just lazily call it Fubo?
I don't know. Whatever. All I know is that they've earned enough marketplace, the real estate of the mind, to just shorten a Fubo, and that's a smart move. Engadget
Wait till they
published
add a plus.
its recommendations for the best live TV streaming services. It picked YouTube TV as the most well-rounded. The best cable without a contract went to DirecTV Stream. Best live sports was given, of course, to Fubo. Silence. Sling TV got a nod for being customizable, and Philo was the budget option. Philo's a fast one, right? A fast network?
No. Philo you pay for. It just doesn't have all the it has fewer carriage
options,
agreements. Yeah. I think it's like, I want to say it did have like the Paramount stuff and maybe like the AMC stuff, but not Fox and NBC. These all track. The best cable without a contract is probably the hardest one to understand. That means if you want to have all the channels that you have on cable, but just get it over the internet, DirecTV Stream. It's not going to be the cheapest. It's going to be the most expensive, but it will give you everything.
Yeah, I was doing YouTube TV for a hot minute, but we went back to Hulu for family stuff, for those hard to reach channels.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. Frontier Internet is now bundling in YouTube TV. If you're a Frontier Internet subscriber, you can add YouTube TV for an extra cost, but it's $10 less a month than if you got it separately. Oddly, if you're a Frontier TV subscriber, you can also add on YouTube TV at a $15 a month discount. Frontier had a partnership with YouTube TV before, but they were billed separately. You had to pay Google. You got, I think, the discount, but you had to pay Google. Now it'll all be on the Frontier bill, one charge, along with all the fees. YouTube TV also has a similar partnership with Verizon.
Yeah, that all feels less weird now that we've seen it for so long with Amazon and the add-on channels and through Apple and so on.
Well, and I think this is interesting. It's sort of Verizon and Frontier admitting we'd love to continue to bundle in TV, but people aren't buying it. They are, however, buying YouTube TV. So if we can bundle that in instead, sure, why not? In fact, we'll bundle YouTube TV with Frontier TV.
Is TV the new landline? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that
it's like kind of the new landline?
Hey man, just say you're getting cable. Whatever. We don't care if you ever hook it up or not.
Just we'll give you YouTube TV at a $15 discount if you say you get Frontier TV.
You know what? I think buckle up. This is the first time we've really considered it, but I'm going to say we're going to see 2 years of people asking for just internet, and they're going to be like landlines are out, but I guarantee you people are going to be trying to thrust cable. Cordkillers@gmail.com. Let us know.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front.
Tom, we got a lot of them this week.
Indeed. Anonymous writes, I work for a school, and over the years, we have moved away from cable companies in every classroom. But curiously, outside of a couple that have discounts for college students, there don't seem to be any streaming services that have offers for educational institutions. Are you guys or any listeners aware of any live TV streaming programs for news and local channels? Thank you.
I'm not, and this is one that I wanted to kind of boost the signal because somebody out there probably knows something and they can write in. Although if I were to speculate wildly, which is my favorite thing to do, it would be tougher to justify the educational benefit. Like with cable, you could say, so the kids can watch Discovery and Nat Geo and all those educational channels, whereas Netflix would be a harder sell for that.
You can get news for free from the local news apps. So if you want your local news, go find the local news apps. They exist and you can get local news. In fact, a lot of local news are showing up on places like Pluto, and things like that. So news should not be a problem. Just go check. It may vary by market, but most of them have it. Local channels outside of news, probably, every attempt to try to do that outside of a YouTube TV or something has fallen as far as I know.
Daniel,
but if anybody else knows, cordkillers@gmail.com.
Daniel writes in saying, hey, Tom, Brian, and Bryce. He asks, there's, oh, wait. Tom, you take this. I think you had made a mark that I don't know what it means.
He's recommending a service. He says it works with most of the major streaming services, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime TV, Peacock, Disney Plus, and Apple TV. Once you input a TV show that you want to watch, it will tell you which months to subscribe to each service and tell you how much money you are saving by just subscribing to the months you need to. This is at Axios, axios.com/online-streaming-schedule-subscription-savings.
Just rolls off the tongue.
This is new. This is not like Suppose TV. This is not like Just Watch. This is Axios's own system that says, tell us what TV shows you want to watch, and we'll give you a plan for when to subscribe and when to cancel.
If I were to make a guess, this is speculation on my part, but I assume that they get affiliate links or something. That's how they make money on this.
This does not seem to be
probably,
like a
yeah.
searching tool. Like there are a lot of shows that are not on here that are streaming. So I think this is very much like these are the shows that are on today.
These are the hot shows. You can choose from those.
So the shows that are not canceled or library shows. Like
it
seems like it's
so
more much
maybe
more
this
live.
is a feature to bring more people into Axios.
Oh, you can search for The Last of Us, but what did you try to search for?
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, which are both.
Seinfeld isn't on there. So this database is not comprehensive.
But it does seem to be for currently running shows. Just looking at
Open Bayou in the chat points out that they're probably not making money on this because of the way they do make money.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm almost certain, having worked at CNET, that they're making affiliate link money, but I could be wrong. Maybe Axios doesn't do that.
Who knows? If you work at Axios, please email us, cordkillers@gmail.com. Let us know.
Russ from Houston, our boss, says, I feel that Marvel and Disney would totally have gone after the script leaker that we talked about last week, regardless of whether this was a phase 1, 2, or 3 movie. I don't think it has anything to do with perceived quality or whether the franchise is waning. This is about setting a precedent, just like defending a copyright. If you want to protect it, you have to actively fight to protect it. If it becomes the norm that these scripts are out in the wild, going forward, it could diminish the brand. The secrecy around Infinity War and Endgame was historic and is no comparison to Ant-Man 3, in my opinion. Now, Russ is doing something that a lot of people do, conflating trademark and copyright. You do not have to defend your copyright if it is registered. That's why you register it. Trademark, on the other hand, you might lose if you're not out actively defending it or using it. But copyright, if it's registered, you protect it. I still think Russ's point is well made, which is they want to discourage others from ever doing this to any of their movies, no matter what.
Well, and also from a game theory perspective, if let's say they really do have a very, very important secret coming out, and then they issue takedowns, then it will not attract a lot of attention because people are like, well, they did that for Quantumania, and there was nothing there.
Yeah. John from Nashville says, hey, all longtime listeners, first time boss. Oh, welcome, John. Good to have you as a boss. I'm wondering if you can answer this because I'm having trouble finding any information. Last week, Bryce and Brian and a mysterious presence that sounded like Tom were discussing how the bankruptcy of Diamond Sports Group might affect Major League Baseball. But what about other league broadcasts by Bally? Here in Nashville, the Bally RSN also does NHL and NBA. Yeah, I intentionally left NHL and NBA out to keep it simple since it does seem like baseball is leading the charge on this. But it's probable that whatever happens for baseball would then also happen for NBA and NHL. However, one wrinkle in this is that ESPN already owns the NHL streaming rights. So if they were able to get their rights away from Bally or away from Diamond Sports Group, then the NHL would be able to get rid of the blackouts. But they already have ESPN as a streaming partner, so they wouldn't need that part of the equation.
Well, you know what? We have another email, but we're going to save it for After Talk. After Talk, of course, is exclusive for our patrons, patreon.com/Cordkillers. We're going to talk about a really interesting idea from Sean the Dad.
Very good. Sean the Dad. Thank you for that. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We are live on twitch.tv/Night Attack Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We will talk to you then.
Hey, Tom Merritt, what's going on?
I'm just hanging out here watching this scroll go by. What are you doing?
Trying to set up a bit where we thank our beautiful, beautiful patrons, all these wonderful names.
I'm sorry, I'm too distracted looking at these beautiful, beautiful patron names going by. Look at that one. I mean, if you wanted to be one of these people, patreon.com/Cordkillers would be the place to go.
I mean, they're scratching our itch, like, because we're addicted.
As long as it's consensual, like,
we're addicted to their money.
And love. Might as well face it.
Well, God damn it.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.